Welcome to The Real Life Buyer. Whether you are buying for yourself or your business, here you will find tips, techniques and knowledge to support your journey to buying smart. Interviewing business owners and technical experts to give you information and guidance before parting with your money. Save money, time and get what you want when you want it. Now introducing The Real Life Buyer, David Barr.
Hello and welcome to The Real Life Buyer. Today I want to look into the opportunity of finding and evaluating a social media expert, or GP as has been referred to, those sort of people that help to train you in how to use the latest social media out there and use that to grow your business or improve your online presence. So the development of social media and its use to market the individuals and perhaps small SMEs and larger companies is growing at an extraordinary rate. And so there's many companies and individuals seeking assistance in this area. But how do you go about finding the right business, the right people to help you in this use of this technology? I personally receive, for one of my businesses, so many emails asking to support me in my SEO development and social media presence and such. And clearly they're perhaps a little bit dubious. So making the wrong decision and therefore using the wrong people can be costly in time and money. So tonight, I'm really pleased to introduce somebody who's helped me many, many times in this area, a lady called Mina O'Brien, the director of Ditzy Media, and whom I've personally used for helping me many, many times now. So, hi Mina, how are you?
I'm not bad, David. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Perhaps you could start by giving a brief overview of yourself and Ditzy Media and the services that you offer to your customers.
Certainly. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this podcast. Basically, Ditzy Media has been going since 2014, but my own sort of journey with social media began in 2008. When I opened a Facebook account. So that's probably around the same time that most of us might have started teetering with social media. But where it became a bit more serious for me, 11, I began taking pictures with an iPhone and then using platforms such as Twitter and Instagram specifically to actually get those photographs out and get them out using hashtags to communicate to a particular community. So in our case, Eastbourne. This really did take off rather well and led to me having a number of exhibitions and starting a photo club. And all of this was in my spare time, just for fun. But I quickly realized I was actually doing a role which involved marketing professionally in the job that I was doing at the time, but it was marketing looking at outdoor advertising, radio, and a number of mixed media, basically. So as social media started to develop, I became keenly interested, particularly as I saw it as a great tool for business promotion. And so that's what led to me in 2014 deciding to start the business. We basically are a social media consultancy. We give advice and training, and we also do look after a number of customers locally where we actually manage their social media presence for them. We also do things like events and project work. So we take on short bits of work as well, where people have a specific need for a specific length of time. The platforms that we generally cover are the big ones: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, but we also manage people's Google My Business for them. And where less popular perhaps, but important to some businesses, we then have platforms such as Snapchat, Pinterest, and so on. So social media is changing all the time, and new platforms or new ways of using social media to communicate, particularly in this current time, is changing vastly. So it's a good idea to get to know what platforms might work for you, depending on what you're trying to do.
Okay. That's brilliant. It is quite scary, the pace of change, as you say, and how to use them at sort of best effect for yourself. So talking about the big platforms you mentioned, what would you say were the key differentiators between them, and how could they be used best for your person or your business?
So generally, businesses tend to fall broadly into two categories. You've got business to consumer businesses, so that's anything which is serving the consumer market, whether that's food, retail, fashion, and so on. And then you've got your business to business customers, so your accountants, solicitors, and other professional services. So I'm an example of a business to business customer. So depending on who you're trying to target, who you're trying to reach, depends on what platforms might be important for you. So obviously the most biggest, populous, and most used is Facebook. Facebook isn't just Facebook. Facebook has a number of different apps underneath it, such as Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So those are all of the Facebook products. So Facebook is quite technical. The advantages of using it is it's good for reaching the business to consumer market, and it's also good for reaching micro businesses, entrepreneurs, and SMEs. So the business community is quite active on there. There's loads of business groups and stuff like that. So depending on the nature of your customer will determine how effective Facebook might be for your business as a marketing tool. Instagram was an application developed way before it was owned by Facebook, which was set up for photographers. So hence it's an app and it's not actually a web-based platform, although it is changing all the time, particularly under Facebook ownership. The spirit of that application originally was just designed to upload visual content and use hashtags to get that content out there and grow an online community and so on. So where it's different from Facebook and even Twitter and some of the others is the content is visually driven. Therefore, if your customer is highly visual or is more prone or happier to be on a visual network as opposed to where there might be a lot of emotional noise or political noise, Instagram is great for that. It's seen as being a young person's platform, but it isn't just solely to be associated with young people. It has a much wider demographic than that. And if anyone's curious as to whether Instagram suits their business, I would just get them to start an account and do some market research and see if other businesses like them are using it and whether it might be beneficial for them. And in fact, that advice goes across the piece. Twitter is my favorite, to be fair. It's very chatty, conversational. It appeals to people that like news and information and want to be in the know, getting information as it happens in real time. So it's a very, very dynamic, active network, but it's also very great for bringing communities together. And again, it's a hashtag network. So for example, if you want to share content or join in on content connected with Eastbourne, for example, just by doing hashtag Eastbourne, you'll be able to see all that's happening in your town right now and join in the conversation, which is their famous tagline. So very active, dynamic, and great for organic reach. It's great for both business to consumer and business to business markets. LinkedIn is the professional networking tool. So originally started for recruitment marketing and still very strong on that. So the platform literally is recruitment marketing, but then also professional business to business marketing. So businesses that are trying to reach other businesses to expand their customer base would use LinkedIn to do that. You've then got Google My Business, which is a free listing that every business has the opportunity to sign up for when they start their business. And it enables you to populate your online Google presence so that when people Google you or Google companies like you and you come up, that you have a fully kind of optimized Google listing on there. So the other recent development with that, not so recent now, but fairly still, is the fact that you can now actually post social media content onto your listing. So again, that's great for your Google presence and it's a good look. Google own YouTube. YouTube is still the king of video. So it's for anyone doing kind of long content or consistent content. A good example of this is I follow a yoga tutor on there and have done for a few years, and she's always uploading regular content to that channel. So if that is kind of the nature of how your business is going to operate and how it's going to communicate with customers, then YouTube's great for that. You've then got Snapchat, which is a messaging platform. It does have some marketing content on there, but it does tend to be from bigger brands trying to communicate to the youth market. You've got Pinterest, which is a lifestyle shopping e-commerce channel. So that's very effective if you're trying to sell stuff online, particularly if it's lifestyle related. So that could be home improvements, stuff to do with getting married, a life event, that sort of thing. So great for kind of getting ideas and putting boards together for inspiration. So if your customer is looking for goods and services like you on Pinterest, then that would be a good place to be. So those tend to be the top social media channels. You've then got emerging ones like TikTok, which is doing a roaring trade. Everyone's on there making quirky little videos. So this is just where we are today. And I think lockdown is kind of inspiring people to become more creative, more braver, do things that they wouldn't have ordinarily have done. So I know lots of people that might have been put off doing video before lockdown, suddenly they're doing video. So yeah, going for it at the moment is creating opportunities and different ways of communicating all the time.
Okay. One of the interesting things we've touched on is hashtag research. How do you go about that?
Aha. Well, the hashtag driven platforms are Instagram. Instagram, you can use up to 30 hashtags in a post, but they say the word on the street is the sweet spot is between 9 to 15. The best way of doing hashtag research is literally putting your keywords with a hashtag and looking at the value of that hashtag. There are some hashtags that get plenty traffic against them, and that almost can diminish the value of using them. Equally, if the hashtag is inactive on a platform, then again, depending on what your objective is with that hashtag, it may not be worth using. So you want an active, popular hashtag, but you don't want it to be so that your content is either going to disappear because there's too much activity against that hashtag, or that it's underutilized and therefore nobody's going to be using it as a search term to find your content. Another important point about hashtags is geographic search. 90% of the time we are offering localized goods or services, or we are trying to pinpoint certain communities. If you're trying to speak to, say, for example, the Sussex community, if you started with your town, then expanded to East Sussex, then West Sussex, if you're trying to get messages out to those communities, really important to remember to use those hashtags in your messages. And that goes for Instagram, that goes for Twitter, and that goes for LinkedIn too. Where Twitter's different is the general behavior on Twitter is you're using 3 to 4 hashtags at a push. You don't really want to go more than that on Twitter. And in fact, Twitter can get a bit grumpy if you do. So yes, that's the golden rule on hashtags. It's a mixture of subject specific and geographic, depending on who you're trying to reach.
Okay. You mentioned posting, and that's something I've come across a few times, even for myself, is the frequency of posting. Is there a sweet spot, as you referred to, with respect to how often you should post? Because you see some people who seem to be posting absolutely all the time. It's incredible. What is your recommendation?
Again, sometimes it's industry driven, so it really depends on the nature of your business. A good place to start on trying to work out how frequent is the right thing is to do some market research and see what others are doing. Industries will be different depending on the goods and services they're providing. So you'll find that certain types of companies might literally have to post 5 to X times a day, particularly if they're international. They might be wanting to speak to the UK market at one point in the day and then the US market at another. So it is a very individual thing. At least once a day is the rule of thumb, I would say. But again, it depends on the nature of your business as to how often. I agree that sometimes if you are posting content too much, it can be, it can actually start to work against you. So it's very much about the quality of what you're doing and what's appropriate for your market in terms of volume. So yeah, it's worth looking into per kind of sector. And it's also down to your time as well. Even if you wanted to post 5 times a day across 6 platforms, is that actually feasible? Is it going to get you the results you want?
The other thing I've noticed is the number of followers people have, and that seems to be quite a big deal. What difference does the number of followers make in reality?
Followers can give credibility, but to me, it's just one aspect of checking out a business online is looking at their followers. But you could have very healthy businesses that have only just recently joined social media and will be at the very start of their journey. Does that make them less credible? Well, certainly online initially, yes, possibly. But if they're well established offline, then it's just a case that they've got a job of work to do in getting set up. Sometimes you can look at people and they will have trillions of followers, but you have to be careful and make sure that those are valid followers. Obviously celebrities, politicians, they are by default going to have super amounts of followers, but when it comes to individual businesses, it's harder to establish that. It just takes time. And for me, it's the quality of something over the quantity that should lead how we view people. But yeah, it is obviously something that people do count as very valuable on social, and yeah, it does count towards credibility for sure.
Yeah. We've worked on campaigns in the past, and as you well know, you helped me do a Facebook campaign, which I was very grateful for. Thank you very much. Can you perhaps explain what a campaign is for the listeners and what the costs are and work associated with doing a campaign?
So this is specifically with respect to Facebook. Facebook, alongside with Instagram in its toolkit and Messenger, enables us as businesses to advertise across all of those platforms. With Facebook, you can use the ads options to create different types of advert according to what your business objective is. So you've always got to kind of start with the end in mind. What is the purpose of your ad? What are you trying to get the customer to do? Or what is it that you're trying to achieve with the advert? And Facebook's very good at giving you a number of different objectives to choose from. So things like, are you trying to raise brand awareness? Are you trying to get more engagement, more page likes, drive traffic to your website? Those are just some examples of the adverts you can do on Facebook. You can then target audiences. So you can choose to target towns, countries, and so on. And you can even micro target down to within a mile of a street name. So very powerful in terms of geographic targeting. You've then got gender, age, languages, but then we come into the demographics. So say, for example, you wanted to market a product to parents of children of a specific age group, you can actually do that. You can also target people based on interests, so people with an interest in coffee or cake or whatever it might be. So it can be quite an effective advertising tool. In terms of costs, it's scalable. So Facebook advertising can start as little as £1 a day, and the minimum campaign is £3. And you can literally upscale it from there. When you set your budget, it will give you a rough indication of what your likely results are going to be. So from there, you can literally go from a tenner to £20 and see how scalable it is. So literally, you should be able to double the potential results of a campaign based on your budget and what you're putting in. Lots of things affect the performance of a campaign, how you've created the ad, what the text says, what the call to action is, what the visual is. So setting the budget and the audience is just one part of it. It's also being mindful of the creative side of the advert too. So yeah, costs are entirely up to the budget holder on that one. Good idea to measure with a small amount of money, and then once you've got some initial data, that will inform your next steps in terms of what decisions you make regarding future advertising.
Okay, thanks. So thinking it from a person now, perhaps working on behalf of themselves or for another business, and they they've been given a task, or they have to have the task of getting online and finding a partner, a company like Ditzy Media. How do they go about finding the right company? What sort of things should they be looking for?
It's a very noisy marketplace. So one thing I know we've spoken in the past before, even we ourselves get lots of emails, lots of unsolicited emails from companies offering us vast different elements of digital marketing services, whether it's SEO, website, social. It's really important to know who you're dealing with, I would say, and this is across the piece, of course. So always be sure that you validate who a company is. So if you are interested in doing business, they say they're limited, check them out on Companies House, check they're viable, that they are a credible thing. If you have a look at their website, check out their own content, check out their own social media. You're going to be taking on a social media agency, then a great way of doing some research on them is looking at their own online presence. And hopefully that will help, establish their credibility. Another thing you can do, another great aspect of social media, is the ability to see what their customers have said. So you've got Facebook reviews, Google reviews, LinkedIn testimonials. Go and have a look at all of those. And, don't talk to the company, make sure you're putting out what you need and you're getting good information back about what they're going to do to achieve that for you. I would say, and again, this is just kind of best practice for me, try and get free quotes or free proposals from agencies that you're thinking of. So you've got some benchmarking that you can do, benchmarking around the quality of the service, but also the cost. So having a number of different quotes, different proposals from people will hopefully help you determine who you will want to go with. Working with a social media company, it is like having an extended team, I would say, for your business. So it's really going to be important that you get on and that you've got trust with that provider too. Obviously, that doesn't happen instantaneously. Another good thing is if you know people, if you know other business owners that are using social media companies, who are they working with? Would they recommend them? So do talk to your peers as well, because it may be the case they are using someone in your locality and you immediately have that instant recommendation from them, which will help give you a bit of peace of mind too.
Okay. So would you say it's better to deal with a company that is local so you can physically meet, or is that not so important anymore?
Everyone's different. So for people, having a partner local. So a lot of people approach us because we are local. They like that. They like the fact they can come and see us in the office. They can come and talk to us. We can meet for coffee and, review stuff together. So I think, even despite lockdown and the inevitable distance that we have from each other at the moment, it's still an important part in people's buying decision to have that local provider. And also I think because, especially at the moment, we want to support each other's immediate business community. So if we're all buying locally from each other as a supply network, it's only, a good thing for our local community. But obviously we technically can work with anybody, and as can any other social media agency. It's just about finding the best agency for you. So sometimes maybe a local provider isn't going to meet your criteria. So it's about, knowing what you need of that agency. And I think that's more important in establishing that they're credible and that you can work with them and they're trustworthy, rather than where they're based. So however, so you can arrive at that, yeah.
Yeah. You talked about quotations earlier on. Is that something that you experience requests for quotations often? If so, what kind of things would you expect to see in a quotation?
So if somebody's interested in working with us, we will do an initial kind of conversation with them or gather some initial information from them regarding what their objectives are. From there, we will go off and put a proposal together based on the information that they've given us, and we'll give them a number of different options. So again, we're not just saying, right, this is it, this is the only option you have. We're giving them options so that they can consider that based on their budget and what they're trying to achieve. Once they've come back to us with all of that, then obviously we go forward on that basis. So yeah, we issue quite a few of these. So yeah, if someone's interested, it helps them understand what the experience is as well of using somebody like us and the workflow involved.
Right. In considering earlier on, we were talking about the pace of change. How would a person keep abreast of that kind of growth? Is it something that one should regularly attend courses? Are there courses that are often online? Obviously, that in your life you have to keep up to speed all the time. But for the person at home, or with a small marketing budget, how would they go about that?
Well, the platforms themselves are building into them. Facebook's probably the best example of this. Online learning. So they have a whole section of Facebook called Blueprint, and you can go through and take those online courses. And they also, in addition to that, have an incredible resource center too. So for most niggles, queries, or to find out what's actually happening in terms of progress, the platforms themselves often have within their infrastructure a lot of information which is free to access. So they're a good place to start. You then have publications like Social Media Today and Social Media Examiner. So if you're really looking to stay up to date, bang on trend with what's hot in the world of social media or the latest updates and so on, they are two great accounts to follow. If you're using social media scheduling software like Hootsuite or Zoho, again, they are great resources for how-to guides and to troubleshoot different issues. So if you do come stuck, if you come up against an issue, Googling it, having a look at YouTube videos can be a great way, but never rely on one piece of information, particularly if it's not from the platform itself. Try and do a little bit of research around an issue if you've gotten really stuck with something. So that would be my advice, but there is an awful lot available online. It's just a question of finding it, making sure it's good quality stuff that you're looking at. So for that reason, your go-to place should be your platform that you're actually using, and exploring their help resources and any tuition that they may have within them. That would be my best advice.
Okay. So let's say I managed to obtain 3 quotes, as we mentioned earlier on. I've analysed those quotes and I've chosen the company I prefer to work with. I want to make sure that that company obviously is delivering on their promises. What would you say are good measures or KPIs to evaluate one of those businesses by how well they are performing or not, as the case may be?
Well, whatever you've agreed with that provider should stand. So the objective of the contract. So for example, is it the number of posts that they're creating? Is the performance of the contract down to the quality of the content created? Is it all about driving up followers? So it's very much whatever objectives have been set in the beginning, are they being met? If they're not being met, why not? Is there a technical thing that's happened which has caused that objective to change? Or is it that they're underperforming? So really do begin with the end in mind in terms of what is it you want to achieve from social media? How are you going to use an agency to help you achieve that? Social media is a long game. So it's rare that you're suddenly just going to, everyone's dream is to go viral. Well, not everyone's, but that's one of the things about social is we all believe oh my God, I've got a Facebook page, that's it. The phone's going to start going crazy and I'm going to get loads of web hits. The truth is it's a long slog, and it's requires a number of different factors to be successful at it. Some of which is content driven, some of which is how you engage with your customers. Some of it might be down to your ad spend, how frequently and how much you're spending on whatever platform. So there's a number of different contributing factors, but going back to your question, set clear objectives. Your social media plan, and you're using an agency or whether you're doing it yourself, should be part of your wider marketing plan, which should be part of your overall business plan. So if you have set yourself up in that way, you should be reviewing it regularly, i.e. monthly really, to check on your performance over the course of a month. Has it grown? Has it been as powerful as the month before? What adjustments need to be made to make it even more of an impact next month? So it's constantly reviewing it as well, I would say, is important. And generally, if for our customers, we do that on a monthly basis. So
okay, so you should expect perhaps an analytical report coming off the system once a month. Is that fair to say?
well, it's part of our contract with our customers. So if it's important to you in procuring a social media agency, then make sure it's part of yours. Ask for a monthly report, and that way you've got some way of reviewing what's actually happening. So yes, I would strongly encourage it. I think it's important, because otherwise, how do you know your efforts are working?
Yeah. As you mentioned earlier on, this is a long game. A lot of people think, as you say, it's an instant success, hopefully coming around the corner, or their order book will double tomorrow. And so they have to set reasonable expectations on what is possible, perhaps. So that's always a challenge. And so therefore, if it's a long game, then the relationship between the buyer and the supplier in this case is obviously quite important, because communication has got to stay pretty fluid, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. Also, because you're creating content on behalf of your customer, the relationship is quite close, because you are trying to be them, in effect. So that's achieved by obviously taking a brief from the customer, drafting the content, putting together whether it's visuals, etc., and getting their approval prior to the content being done. So that way we can always check that we're on message, we're on brand, we're not saying something in a way that they wouldn't want us to. So the communication flow is literally weekly, sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less, but it is quite a close relationship in that way.
Okay. I guess the other key thing is to make note, or take note of particular times of the year or periods where you'd expect, if you're a retail customer, I guess, planning for key events that are going to happen perhaps in your area, or certain high selling periods, I guess Christmas and such. That's when I guess you'll get more involved with your customers at those kind of times.
Yeah, there will be key times where we are, to be honest, we're active throughout, but there'll be, we might get more shorter work at certain times of the year. So traditionally at this time of the year, there would be loads of events going on locally, and we've got a long established history of supporting a lot of events. So that's we get an upsurge in that sort of work at this time of the year. So yeah, it can be quite seasonal according to what's happening. But yeah, very good idea from a business point of view, business owner point of view, for your own social media marketing, and to be able to work with your social media marketing company, is if you know what you've got planned, sharing that with them, that can then help form a template for the type of content that needs to be created, can allow you then to work back in terms of lead times. So yeah, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah. Are there any sort of best practice tips that you would recommend to make sure that your relationships are very close, very intimate? Have you got any, some advice for people going down this route?
I think it's just finding, if we're talking about personalities and trust, it's do go and meet if you can under the current circumstances, even if it's online. Do get to know the person that you might be working with. For us, it's not unusual to have 2 or 3 meetings with a potential customer before they may decide to appoint their agency. So, I think it is a very good idea to do that. Get to meet the provider in person, get to establish that rapport, or not, as the case may be. So yeah, it's important that you like each other if you can.
True.
So yeah, that would be a basis of a good working relationship.
Absolutely. That's really good, really helpful. I think a lot of people get quite a lot of good information and some good content, shall we say, is the right terminology, in this in this show. If people wanted to contact you and your company, what's the best way of going about that?
So our main website is ditzymedia.com. That has all our social media links, but literally whatever platform you're on, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, if you look for Ditzy Media, we should pop up. You can contact us by email on info@ditzymedia.com. If you go to our Facebook page, if you want to call us, by all means, send us a direct message on any of the platforms and we'll reach out to you and give you a call if you would like that. We can also set up online meetings as well if you want to have an informal chat. We are doing one-to-one training sessions online at the moment, and depending on where you are, so if you're Eastbourne, Lewes or Wealdon, you might actually get funded time with us. So do reach out to us if that's of interest.
That's brilliant. Well, thanks very much. You've been extremely generous with your time. I'm sure we're going to get lots of feedback about this show. Perhaps we'll have to come back on and just go into these subjects a little bit more in depth. So hopefully you'll be available for that.
Yes, no, my pleasure.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much then. And hopefully we'll meet up soon, given the present circumstances.
Yeah, indeed. One way or another, eh?
Brilliant.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much for having me. Have a good afternoon.
And yourself. Take care there, Mina. Bye-bye.
Bye.